In this video, I'll show you 3 tools, 2 developments, and 1 critical concept that you need to understand to be good in the world of AI, plus a little bit of context so you know how to navigate based on that information. Let's dive in. First, you are probably aware of like image generators like Midjourney and co. And there are manifold options that you can use with them. One development that is very, very current are ancient selfies, as I call them. For example, here, that's probably how Queen Elizabeth I would have looked on a selfie, or here with Jesus, or Jesus and his followers, and here with Cleopatra, with Napoleon, etc., etc. You can use this, for example, in education. You can use this for visualization of concepts, like you have an idea for a new product or for a new movie or whatever you want, actually. Like literally, your creativity are your boundaries. Another example for this is the so-called Great Party of Hogwarts. Like you can see here, that is probably what Hagrid would look like on this party. So if you have a pitch, if you have any idea, it is very, very easy. The thresholds are very, very low these days to visualize your ideas, to make great content out of them. And you don't need to be an artist with 10 years plus experience, plus these creative ideas, so you can make it work. So basically, it's something very useful for everyone. Which brings us to tool category number 2, open source assistance and open source software in the AI area. This is one example that was released last week, the Open Assistant. What is it? It is basically an open source alternative to ChatGPT. And we see more and more options like this in more and more areas of AI. So for example, Stable Diffusion is an open source alternative to DALL-E 2. We see this like with, here we see this on large language models per se, like the Llama model from Facebook and Alpaca from Stanford. So the basic idea is the concept that you need to understand here to use it. There is an alternative to concentrated tools that are just usable via an API. So if you don't want to have your company or your work or whatever completely dependent on just one company, for example, or just one central supplier, open source can be a very good alternative. Just look for the like privacy and the conditions, etc. in any case, even if it's open source. But the big advantage of open source is that you probably can use it on your own hardware. So in most of the cases to your own conditions, which is a very, very big advantage, like the basic open source advantage just for AI tools. Downside of the whole thing is that it's not clear if we really want very, very powerful AI tools in the hands of literally anyone. I don't know. There are examples out there that you can unrestrained AIs, that you can use them for harmful things as well. Like it's a classical multiplier. So that's the meta scale of it. I don't know if it's a very good thing, but we are in the middle of it. So you better get used to it, I guess. Which brings us to our third and last category and tool for this week. There are this category is gaming, AI, like AI fueled gaming. You probably have seen this video again or something like it, where the monologue options or dialogue options from the character here come from GPT-4, and the voice comes from another AI tool. So basically, you just combine 2 to 3 AI tools with a gaming engine, and you have a completely unique experience every single time. And this is from one guy that, as far as I know, doesn't even have a lot of coding experience. So we are literally on the threshold of gaming that is usable by everyone. So to have this dimension, this tool art, this tool kind on your radar is very important. Because basically you can use it for anything, again, for educational purposes, for onboarding your people, for pitching something, for making a better experience in anything. Like before it was maybe a docs where you just wrote things down. Now you can make it an interactive story. Just one example. The options are endless. Other things in the gaming plus AI are human or not. This is basically an automated Turing test. What is a Turing test? It was for the longest time like the basic test where you can check if a computer, like a program, is sentient or at least intelligent, not per se sentient, but at least intelligent or not. Like, and here you can test it right now. Can you spot the difference, or can you make the difference between a computer or a human just by writing them? If not, or if you are wrong, then arguably computers are intelligent enough for, and here it gets a little bit fuzzy, but then at least you can say, okay, the computer is probably at least in some way intelligent. That's a very, very interesting little tool. And the last thing, I spoke about education before, is this example of educational game software produced by Ethan Moloch, which is a professor at NYU, if I recall correctly. And he just made this little entropy visualization game with GPT-4. So he just made a few prompts and the rest was done by GPT-4, which is very, very interesting. As I said before, we are on the edge of individual gaming possible by literally everyone. Like the APIs are right there, right out there right now. So you, in principle, you can just start in this second. You could pause the game and just hit your create button if you wanted it. This is especially interesting because the gaming market is bigger than music and film combined, and it's still growing exponentially. And there are good arguments, as laid out here, for example. I will put all resources in the description. There are good arguments that generative AI, generative tools will fuel gaming in a way close to unimaginable. Like it's more democratized. Like everyone has the access to it. Like you have way more options. Like you don't need this much time as before and money to make games, etc., etc. So we probably will see a lot of very, very great things from this. Just have it on your radar as one probable tool to use to visualize whatever you want. Literally, your creativity are your only boundary. Which brings us to the developments of this week. First, the tone gets rougher in the space of AI. Personalized, as so often, by Elon Musk, who just built a rivaling company to OpenAI. It's called XAI, and a rival product to ChatGPT. It's called Truth GPT. So this is just one example for a bigger development that the whole space of AI is like exploding. Like every day we get new startups, we get new solutions, new tools, new everything. There's way more resources like cloud computing available, like simply money, etc., etc. So the whole space is just going in overdrive. And it's just one example. So it's getting crowded there. So there are more alternatives. So you have to build better solutions to, I don't know if survive, but at least to thrive in this whole thingy. And there's another, again, personification of this. And this is the law dimension, again, personalized by Elon Musk this week, which or who just threats to lawsuit Microsoft for apparently using Twitter data, which is again just one data point of a bigger picture, which is best argued by Mark Andreessen, and probably like the most aggressive argued actually from him, who basically has the thesis that AI won't cause unemployment and any big waves because it will be made basically illegal. I don't know if I agree with that. At least I don't know to what degree. Like the argument is solid. and it makes sense, but I don't know if that's really how the cards will play out. But in any case, it's very important to have this on your radar. So if you work directly in AI, or if you work in an area or in a company or whatever that uses AI solutions, why is this important? Because nobody knows what really the rules will be. Like the European Union just works on their AI Act. In the US, there are a lot of lawsuits around image generation, around chatbots, etc. So it is not impossible to imagine that we will get a complete new framework for using AI as soon as the first verdicts hit. Again, just keep your eyes open, because nobody can really say for sure what this will bring with it. So maybe we have a completely regulated AI space in a year or two. Nobody knows. So just have the full range on your radar. The second development in AI this week, at least again, it's just a data point this week of a whole bigger development, is that probably scaling laws are over. What are scaling laws? Scaling laws say that if you have a large language model, so actually the current AI paradigm, and you just throw more resources on it, like more computing power, but basically, then it will get better. Nobody really knows why or what are the foundations around it, but it just works. So which is the reason why we have this very good distinction between like the pre-deep learning era. Then we have deep learning, so we have deep neural networks with a lot of neurons and parameters, and then you have just basically bigger networks. Just throw more stuff at them, more data, more hardware, more whatever, and it works. But there's a good argument that we are fading out of this, so probably we need new ideas around it. Again, why is this relevant? If you work directly in an AI company, you're probably aware of this, that it gets more engineering again. And if you just use AI tools and getting slowly but surely used to this exponential development of it, so you maybe just say, okay, at this speed in a year we will be there, just be aware that it's not sure. There's no law of nature that we will get there. It's not ruled out that we get all these ideas in the right time, but it's getting harder, which is kind of obvious because the technology gets more complex. So these are the two developments, which brings us to our last point, your one critical concept for the week to understand around AI. And this is Moloch. You probably have heard of it, at least if you have seen the very, very, very great interview of Lex Friedman with Max Tegmark. It's basically the concept of the race to the bottom. Like, no participating party wants to participate in this race, but nobody has an option and a saying about it. You can see this, for example, in the nuclear race. Like, nobody really per se wants to have nuclear arsenal, but if you don't and the other has, you are basically damned. So you get a nuclear race. Same with AI. It's very reasonable to argue that no participant of this AI race right now, like from Google and Microsoft and OpenAI and then whatever, Stability, Anthropic, etc., that no one of their leaders really want to participate in a race about AI. But if they stop, they will probably get kicked out of the market, which may or may not bring us in a very, very dire situation. Usually, like historically, we solve this problem by building institutions, by creating rules, etc., laws. But we are not that good in this new area of AI. So if you have any ideas, if you have any options to maybe make that better, please do it. But at least be aware of it. So this race is not because everyone just wants to have the quickest option that we basically can't understand anymore, because it's probably more intelligent as we, and if it's intelligent at all, again, you can check here. but there's not really an option. That was basically the reason for this 6-month stop that was demanded by, for example, Max Tegmark, Elon Musk and co. Like you may or may not remember this open letter. So that's it for today. If you want to go deeper, I will link you the video to last week's tools, developments, and concept. See you next week. Ciao.